have one friend. Situations in life coming, you gotta trust them. Found out many times in life you can't trust men. So I rolled solo, that process was an adjustment. Friends let you down, not around when you're needing them. Only here to take like a child, got you feeding them. Like a child, got you feeding them. Better off leaving them like salt, that's the seasoning. Killing black people, that sugar really depleting them. Knowledge over ignorance, rising above predicaments. Fighting for equality, speaking for all the innocence. These drugs they've been giving us, turning our people vigilant. Innocent dissidents, violence is coming imminent. Gotta fall a couple times to learn the lessons faster. Thinking, will it matter if I skip a couple chapters? This life that I'm after got me climbing up the ladder. Won't be another rapper, bankrupt with the chapter. On another mission to get rich, it's big chips. Head past the crown on solid ground, the kid switch. On another level, these devils can't block the business. The kid get psycho with a rifle, get your wig split. Change the game passively in the back, so happily. Jersey.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Community Soldier Podcast. Tonight, we got a special guest, and I'm going to let him introduce himself. This is Mr. Adam Grant. Mr. Adam, tell the people about yourself, my brother.
Where do I begin? I love the idea of the community soldier, though, because as long as I've known you, that's exactly what you've been. My name is Adam Grant. I'm the executive director of an organization called A Brighter Way. In a nutshell, what we do is social supports and service connection for people who are formerly incarcerated. And again, kind of shortening it, our mission is to increase the quality of life for people who are formerly incarcerated and to create a stigma-free community that supports all its members, including those who are formerly incarcerated. So that's it.
Nice. And why is that important to you to be a part of this type of mission?
It's important to me for a number of reasons. It's personal to me because of the fact that a little over 5 years ago, I was released after serving 27 years in the Department of Corrections on my B prefix. I did 2 years on my A prefix, and I've done about 2 years in the county jail. So if you add all those numbers up, I pretty much have over 30 years, nearly 31 years of incarceration under my belt. And so it's very personal to me.
Nice. Okay, well, let's get right into it, man. First up, I want to talk about some of your personal experiences as far as dealing with trauma. And we're going to talk about your personal journey. What was your experience with trauma before and during incarceration? I want to know what that was like.
Before it can go in a bunch of different directions. I was born to a 15-year-old mother. I've often joked about the fact with her that she was a really good big sister. She wasn't prepared, to be a mother. So that in itself is, traumatic, which leads to other aspects, which are poverty, different, she had different husbands. My mom didn't do the boyfriend thing a lot. She had several husbands. And that's what you did in the 1970s. Some of them were better than others. So there was trauma from the abuse. There was trauma from sexual abuse that took place when I was younger, physical abuse, verbal abuse. Sometimes when you start talking about these things, people have a tendency to kind of clam up and be like, well, everybody deals with these things. But that's trauma speaking right there, is the fact that it doesn't make it any less so. Just because that was the way things happened in the 70s doesn't mean it's the way things should have happened.
That's a fact.
How that transferred into prison was I came into it very traumatized. I came into it very... I had family members who'd been into prison, and they told me all the things to expect. So, of course, I went in there with this heightened sense of vigilance, and that every person who approached me somehow was a threat. And so somehow I had to address it, or else I was going to be further traumatized. So I spent the majority of my A prefix in segregation, which in itself is traumatizing. Prison is designed to be traumatizing if you think about it. It's not meant to be pleasant. They design it to be traumatizing. I usually
That's
do
true.
this exercise whenever I've got a group of people in a room when we're talking about trauma. And I say, raise your hands if you've ever been strip searched, you know? And people will, whether they raise their hand or not, you can see that it has a reaction on their face. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the people in the room raise your hand who've been strip searched dozens of times, hundreds of times, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's meant to be traumatic and it is traumatic. So prison doesn't do anything to heal wounds. It has a tendency to help keep wounds open. And it
Mm-hmm.
really comes down to a responsibility and um, a community effort inside prisons to actually do anything to heal traumas and not add.
Mm-hmm. Was there a specific moment that made you realize like that you needed to take some time to heal and grow after prison?
There have been various times that I realized that I kind of have to take a breath. I did a lot of work while I was in there, but there's only some things you can only theorize as to how you're going to face them out here. I don't,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done real good with sitting still out here, and I've had to be able to learn to kind of not only be with myself, but be in the moment, not have to do something, not have to produce something, um, not have to do anything more than just kind of be at times. And that's kind of what prompted my starting therapy was the
Mm-hmm.
idea that I couldn't stay still for very long. And I didn't know really, I knew who I was, which was, kind of on a deeper level, but I didn't really know what I was in
Mm-hmm.
this space. What I was in prison, I pretty much understood, and a lot of that's transferred out here. But the circumstances are different out here, and therefore the expression of it has to be slightly different too.
Yes, sir. Definitely. So, who or what helped you work through trauma while you were incarcerated or after you were incarcerated?
I mean, a lot of it while I was in there was old heads. I mean, a lot of times, those of us have been down for a minute know that, it ain't everybody in there working against you. There's some people in there
Mm-hmm.
who really have, our best interest at heart, who really want to see people um, flourish and unfold into their better selves. So I'm grateful for some of them old heads who took me to the side, and said certain things like, why are you fighting with your weakest weapon? Because I'm constantly in the hole because I'm fighting with people. And of course, I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking, who you calling weak? You know what I'm saying? He's like, you're smarter than 99% of the people in here. Use your head. You
Mm-hmm.
don't always have to use your fists. And when I started hearing that, I was like, maybe I can think about these things. Maybe I can figure out, what's going on with me. Maybe I can expand my vocabulary, in intellectually and emotionally to better be able to handle the things that I'm dealing with. So one by one, there was a series of people, who kind of made me look at things a little bit different and made me look at potential different because growing up,
Mm-hmm.
whenever I heard, what potential I had, all what it always meant was you're not living up to it. And
Mm-hmm.
in there, I started to hear, listen, you got some skills, man. Let's figure out how you can express them, how you can use them to your best interest, and ultimately how you can use them to the best interest, around you. But ultimately, also, you do that amount of time, especially back in the day. I did my first 10 years, in level 4 and level 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent 3.5, well, 6 years if you look at the total, but I spent 3.5 on my B prefix at MR. I spent a year and a half at Marquette. I spent 8 months and floor block in Jackson. So I spent it in a cell by myself.
Mm-hmm.
So the help that I got from other people was one thing, but the fact that I had, I think, the courage to really go deep on myself and do an inventory was a
Yeah.
big part of it too, because I was open to what other people were saying.
For the people that don't understand about the levels, the level 4, and can you explain that a little bit and what the difference between a level 4 and maybe a level 1?
Yeah. And it's really twisted too, because the higher the number, the higher the level, which means the more secure you are, the less time you get out of your cell, the less time programs you have. Um, but it's really twisted because in some ways the higher levels are actually better time to some people because you've got your own space. People don't understand that. But so in level 5, I
Yeah.
was in Marquette and I was in 4 block, which meant I basically had an hour and a half a yard a day. And if you don't have a job, you have to find ways to go out to the law library or something like that. You don't get a lot of time out of yourself, but you got your own space, which lets you do some work. Level 4, most level 4s, you're double bunked and you still have very little time out of yourself. So now you got to deal with somebody else's nonsense too. Level 2, you get a lot more time out of your cell, but you're in a double bunk situation. And then when you've really done everything you're supposed to do and you end up in level 1, where you're supposed to have the most freedom, they throw you basically in a horse barn where you're there with 159 other people with half walls,
Yeah.
group bathrooms and everything else. And
Yeah.
so you've behaved, and now you're in a situation that is just, as far as I'm concerned, inhumane
Yes, very. I want the
and
people to
traumatic.
understand, yes, the trauma side of it. Um, I want the people to get a sense of some of the traumatic things that can happen or that do happen on a regular basis when you're inside maybe some of the higher levels, like the level 4s and the level 5s that you were on.
Yeah. Um, and it depends on the regular basis, because I used to describe prison, especially in the higher levels, as extreme bouts of boredom punctuated by random acts of violence. So you would have really nothing going on, but you're hyper vigilant because you're paying attention to everything that's going on around you. And then all of a sudden there would just be, my first time at my first on my A prefix at MR, I was walking to the Chow Hall with this guy, Bay City. That's all the only thing I knew him by. His name was Bay City. I'd been in the hole for the last 4 months. We're both on top lock. So when everybody's going out to yard and stuff, we're the only ones there. We're like 3 cells away from each other talking. I don't really know him much. About 3 days into this, we're walking to the Chow Hall one day. Somebody walks up from the right side of him, stabs him in the neck, and I watch it come out where I'm standing on the left side. And they literally pushed him basically off the shank into a dark spot in the corner. And so what was my response? I looked forward like I didn't see anything, continued to the chow hall, got my breakfast. You know, that's not a normal response. And so that trauma response and that coping mechanism, like nothing really happened, or when you see somebody jump or get pushed off the 4th gallery in 4 block, you will never
Mhm.
forget the sound somebody makes when they hit
Never
that pavement.
forget.
you know so those are
Yes,
the kind
sir.
of things that you know they come with the territory, but they are traumatic, and then the way you're asked to respond to them is traumatic too, because they're not human, they're not humane. You're just expected to shut things off.
Yes. Also, the Don commented, you get just as much violence in level 1 as level 5, maybe more, which is very true.
True.
Me, I spent a lot of time in level 1, so I got to see the level 1 violence. But I also worked at the Dwayne Waters Hospital, So I got to see all the levels coming inside the hospital, the end results of that said violence. It's just terrible. And you spoke on something that's very real. The mentality while a person is inside, it definitely changes. You definitely become more violent because you have to react to the way in the way that the culture demands you to respond, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it requires, even for those who don't become more um, overtly violence, they become more even internally, because you're running around, and it's like, so when somebody gets stabbed through the neck, you don't even question whether they deserved it. You know, you just
Mm-hmm.
he must have done something. He brought it on himself. You really start to be able to kind of make sense of this. The mind wants to make sense out of everything. So it wants to make sense out of trauma too, and it wants to distance itself from it. So a lot of times that coping mechanism is, well, if I keep my head down and out of the way or whatever, he had what he had coming. He didn't respond in this way. And so everybody responds to it. Their coping mechanisms are different. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Most of us numb, and some of us numb, whether it's through, drugs or alcohol, or some of us just numb emotionally. And I did a little bit of both of them, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. To get people to understand, I got a quick video that I want to share real quick. Man, if we got a second, let's see here. Let me add you into the screen as well, so I want you to still be able to see this. Hold on, bear with me, guys. Let me add you to the scene too. All right, here goes the video.
So, after receiving 30 years to life in prison, and going to, level 4 yard and seeing a lot of shit there, and just like my whole overall experience with prison, period, y'all hear the war stories and on people's channels and shit. I seen all that shit, seen people getting stabbed up, you know what I mean? Seen a guy get his throat cut open on the way to chow and literally have to step over his blood just to get where we're going, you know what I'm saying? Being on yards, I was on a yard where, you know what I'm saying, there was just so much stabbings going on that it got to the point where, someone would get stabbed up and they would just come out, take the dudes off, pour some, you know what I'm saying, some shit on the blood to soak it up, and then the captain would just be like, resume, you know what I mean, like continue yard. It was nothing, like, you know what I mean, kill each other, you know what I'm saying. And I don't know, shit like that in there, became a norm, and you kind of just get immune to seeing that shit every day. And just living my life like that for over a decade, you know what I'm saying? And having to, when I was on lower levels where it was open dorms, you know what I'm saying? I literally have to sleep with a knife, most times, when there was tension and shit, especially when there was tension, So living like that for over a decade, I didn't realize was going to take a toll on me. And since I've been home since '09, since 2009. So that's a long time, right? But it's crazy. I'm still literally doing time. And, like some of the things that some of the behaviors I have, you know what I'm saying, is that out here is when we go out, me and my family, you know what I'm saying, if we go out to a restaurant or anything, I gotta sit with my back to the wall. I gotta be facing the door or something, you know what I mean? And I got to be, and I scan the whole restaurant and I know where everybody's sitting. I know what people are wearing and shit, you know what I'm saying? And it's just, you know, you get this heightened, you know, alertness or awareness about yourself, you know what I'm saying, when you were surviving in a place where, you know, violence was just normal, you know what I'm saying? Like I literally, you know what I'm saying, I don't I can't get comfortable, you know, in crowded places. I don't have I don't have no friendships, you know what I'm saying? I have homies, you know what I mean, that I talk to, you know what I'm saying, but most times I just like we don't talk because I just don't want to hang out with people. I don't want to be around people, you know what I'm saying? I can't do, you know, friendships and shit like that, you know what I'm saying? And you know, and then there's always this like sense of paranoia, you know, where I always feel like, you know, I got one foot out here and one foot in there, you know what I'm saying? And I just feel like sometimes, even though I ain't doing shit, you know what I mean? I've been, like I said, I've been out forever now. I've been doing really good, you know. I just sometimes feel like, man, they can just come get me at any minute, you know what I mean? And, you know, and if they wanted to take me for something, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, even if I didn't do anything, nobody's gonna believe it, you know what I mean? Because, you know, look where I've been, you know what I'm saying? I've been there already, you know? And so I always have this like sense of paranoia within myself, you know, feeling like they gonna come get me, you know? I deal with nightmares, you know what I'm saying? They're just like reoccurring nightmares, you know? Sometimes I won't have any other dreams but dreams about me in prison, dealing with politics, dealing with other races, you know what I'm saying? Always like, you know, ready to go to war and shit like that in there. And yeah, it's just a bunch of weird shit that has happened, you know what I'm saying? And I'm dealing with that, you know what I mean, every day, you know. So that's some of the shit that comes with doing time or doing a lot of time in prison, you know.
All right, man.
That's just real, you
Very
know.
real, man. Very
It makes
real,
me
man.
it makes me think of when I first came to Floor Block. So I come to Floor Block. I just turned 23 years old. I got 27 to 50 and two for the gun, and my whole life had changed. I don't have my appliances or nothing yet, and all of a sudden I just hear chaos. Boom, 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 boom. Lockers getting knocked over, and I look down, and it's the police fighting down at the desk. And I'm like, how real is this? Even the police are down here
Hmm.
gladiator style.
Man, man, that's very true, man. Me working in the hospital, in the prison hospital, I saw trauma on a regular basis, all the way around. I got to see it from um, being inmate incarcerated and from other inmates. I got to see it from the correction staff, the trauma that they actually experienced, the secondary trauma, like you said, when you see someone fall from a fourth tier gallery, you know, someone has to clean that up, you know. Uh, and that also speaks to another point that I had thought about during that video. You become desensitized to violence sometimes when you witness violence on a regular basis. I know for me, one of the trainings that I had got was the custodial maintenance training that they give you. And I took that bloodborne pathogen training because I was the guy that didn't have much financial support while I was inside, so I had to make money for myself. So one of the first hustles that I had was cleaning up blood spills, and I quickly became desensitized to the violence. You know, I was kind of looking forward to making that extra $3 per cleanup. You know, and it really desensitized me to the fact that someone was actually being hurt during these processes. You know, so it is definitely a very real thing dealing with that PTSD and the trauma from it.
Yeah.
Um, what I want to ask you is this: what kind of support system currently exists for incarcerated individuals, if any?
Well, I think this is one of the reasons why I'm such an advocate in this space and why I'm trying to expand the work that we do at A Brighter Way, because it really depends on where you get released to. I
Hmm.
mean, in some areas there's some pretty strong support, and in some areas there ain't nothing. Um, well, let me say this: it's not that there's nothing. Sometimes there's less than nothing, because there's been this big movement to move a lot of things from to separate supports from supervision, because sometimes, especially, those traumas don't let you reach out to the people who have been in charge of your incarceration. There's
Hmm.
not only not the trust factor, there's not a lot of faith. And I'm not saying that things haven't changed some. I think they've changed quite a bit. They're very different than they were 10 years ago upon people's release. I think parole agents are a lot different than they used to be 10 years ago. The services that are available are a lot different, but it doesn't mean shit if you don't access them.
Hmm.
And so, depending on where you go, you might have a brighter way. You might have a supreme felons like we do in Washtenaw County. You might have a lot of the agencies that we work with that are doing things specifically to increase your quality of life. You might have a returned citizens fellowship at EMU like we do. And then you could go somewhere else like White Cloud in Newaygo and not have anybody to do anything with you. No transportation opportunities, no housing opportunities, no job opportunities. Um, so I think it depends. There are a lot of agencies out there right now that are trying to do some good, and there's also agencies out there who are claiming to do some good, who are sucking up all the oxygen in the room so the other ones can't.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, I think it really depends, kind of on where you're at, and it also depends on who's doing the work. I'm not saying that people who haven't been there, who haven't been impacted, can't be helpful, but they
Hmm.
can't do it alone. I promise you that. And they can't do it without us directly there to help them, because there's some things that they just won't, can't, and probably shouldn't get in
Yes.
some ways.
Yes, that's definitely true. And a lot of it is psychological. And a lot of it is things that a lot of people that have never been through the system, they just simply wouldn't understand. And there's a lot of different supports. There's a lot of skills that men and women need to learn upon release, just in the social aspect of life. If you've been gone for 20 years and then you come home to this wild, wide open world of the internet, just being able to learn how to manage that properly, we're seeing is becoming a challenge for people returning home. So all of these things need to be taken into account. And when you don't understand that it's a problem, it's hard for agencies to really address the issues because they really don't understand the problem. And that's why we do advocate so much to have people that were actually formerly incarcerated, that been through the system, that understand what it feels like to come home, because then you can better express and better explain how to deal with some of that um, psychological trauma that you're dealing with after you get out. So, speaking of which, how do you personally like cope with some of the challenges after prison? How do you deal with some of that stress, some from some of that post traumatic stress from prison?
Again, everybody does things a little bit different. Some of my stuff, I wonder, and I actually work through in therapy to wonder whether I'm doing a good job with it or if it's just
Hmm.
another coping mechanism. Because not all of the people that I'm surrounded with, but most of the people that I'm surrounded with, or at least the ones that I mess with the most, they've all done time too. So what's understood doesn't need to be said. I don't need to be, some of these things that we just kind of know. But I got my own things too. I mean, I came home January 8th of 2020. If anybody remembers what happened in March of 2020, the whole world changed.
Mm-hmm.
But what I found is while everybody else felt, cooped up and locked up, and they were all talking about being locked down, I'm looking at all of them like, y'all don't know what it's like to be locked down,
No, not at all.
But so never let a crisis go to waste. And so my wife and I went up to the UP, and I spent 9 years in Kenross. We rode by there, and it was cathartic for me. I went to Munising. Munising was the worst time I ever did. My wife came there to visit me and had gone and seen there were like 7 waterfalls in the area. And she says, I want to bring you back here someday so you can see the beauty you are surrounded by. And I went back up there. And it was amazing. We still go up there like once a year or something like that. So I find a lot of comfort, kind of in nature, in this bigger space, and not having a fence trying to stop my view or stop my access to things. But also I find it in service, being of service. And I share my story because everybody can't. Because sometimes that trauma is still so raw with people that they can't touch on it because it's just too heavy, and it just brings up all those old feelings. I've done some deep dives. I've done some deep work. I can share this thing so other people have an opportunity to understand, what it is, how it affects people, and hopefully to break down some of the stigmas for people who are formerly incarcerated and for those who've never been incarcerated, so that they understand this a little bit better. But that's kind of, my thing is nature. My thing is, kind of, getting out of my own head. I mean, I've got I don't know if I can share my screen. Can I share my screen on here for a second?
Yeah. Do you see the option on the button? There should be a button at the bottom if there's an option.
I do. Let me see. Can you see it?
Yep. I'm going to add it to the screen now. All right.
This is me. This is the space that I went to. This is Munising Falls. This is something I take with me everywhere. This is my screensaver.
Yeah.
Because that makes you understand your place in the world. That also makes you understand that the people who've abused you and who've taken you for granted are also small and not that important. And you go back to those original traumas, and the idea of those they were so big because we were so small. So when you're being traumatized by grown folks, it's like being traumatized by giants now. They're 5 times your size. They can do anything that they want to, and then you internalize that stuff. For me, this is kind of symbolic, of how small we are, but not insignificant. Because I could stop that water from flowing down there. I could do all those things that are destructive. But the best thing that I can do in some places is to simply be and be a part of it.
Nice. Nice. That's a wonderful message. That is definitely something I had to teach myself while I was incarcerated. I had to learn to just learn to love the beauties of life and nature, just to see the blessings and everything that we have around us. But for some people, it just takes us longer to get there. But for people that have never been to prison or never dealt with anyone who has had to come home from prison, what do you wish for those people to understand about the psychological impact of incarceration? Like if there was one thing.
It's less complicated than you think, and sometimes it's more about what you don't do than what you do. My wife, who wasn't my wife when I came home, she spent the last 11 years of my bid with me. And I didn't marry her while I was inside because I wanted to give her every opportunity to run. In case I was as crazy as I thought I might have been, I wanted to give her every opportunity to leave. And after about 1.5 years, she decided to stick around, so I got papers on her. She ain't going nowhere now.
It's locked in now.
Locked in. But I think that some of it is that sometimes when somebody has a loved one that comes home, They try and do too much for them or try and ask too much of them when they first get home. Creating a soft space for them and the opportunity to kind of have a little bit of time to acclimate is hugely important. Because I'm going to share for those who are listening who are formerly incarcerated, this is going to resonate with you. You definitely know it. For those of you who have never been incarcerated, you're not really going to understand it. The first time that you go into a place like a grocery store after you've been incarcerated, where you've had a list in front of you that has 180 to 200 items on it, that's all you can order. That covers everything from fingernail clippers to a bag of peanuts. You know, the first time you walk into some place like a grocery store and are overwhelmed with the amount of choices that you have that now you are being asked to do. I still use the same deodorant I used in prison because it was a choice to me that wasn't that important to make. So I scratched, that one off. But I know people who've gone in there with the lights, the colors, the smells, and come out sick, literally sick, when they walk back out of the building and psychologically overwhelmed. Give them some time, give them some space, give them the opportunity to acclimate, and give them an opportunity to do some crazy things. I told my wife before I came home, she said she was going to give me some space, and I said, okay, for the first year, you ain't got no call on the microwave. If I come in and you got something in the microwave and I want something, I'm taking your cup out and I'm putting it, because that was I didn't do it, but nonetheless,
Yeah,
I told her things like that. I don't want to wait on the microwave no more. Simple things. Give some time. What you do is important, but what you don't do, I think, is all the more important.
that's facts. I remember when I came home and I started to build a relationship with my wife. I remember telling her specifically, I said, because she wanted to follow the true, like, the order of a household according to religious beliefs and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I told her, I said, I need a minute. I need to defer a lot of the decision making to you for a minute, you know, because I knew that I hadn't acclimated enough into society to be able to just jump right in and take over full reins of paying bills and just being a leader within the household, because there were so many things that you're just not used to doing. When every decision is made for you, like you said, you only have X amount of items that you can possibly order, so that limits your choices down. You can only use the bathroom at certain times when you're allowed to. You can only eat what's on the menu. You can only wear what's approved for you to wear. There's only 10 different shoes that you could possibly purchase. So all of your choices are made for you. So as a man, I know it took me a while before I felt comfortable with actually making the decisions for us, or making my own decisions in a comfortable way, because of that anxiety that you mentioned, a lot of people having. And it's a very real thing, especially when that anxiety comes from you not being used to things like that we see every day, like in the grocery store, like just that self checkout. You know, how many men are gonna and women struggle with this self checkout when they first come home? I know when we're inside, when they switched to the touchscreen ordering of the store, a lot of people didn't understand just that, alone.
Yeah.
So I know that there's a lot of things that the traditional public won't even think about when it comes to someone re-entering into society. And that's why it is important for us to have organizations like Brighter Way. So I want to segment into that. Let's talk about that for a minute. What does Brighter Way do to help, like, returning citizens rebuild their lives?
It's a very individualized approach, so it's really hard to say other than the fact that that's exactly it. When we say social supports and service connection, social supports is on the front. You've got to know that you're amongst your people. So one of the things that we do when you come in is it's a different environment than you're coming into any other agency. We got Lil Wayne and Rick Ross and, even some of the new stuff. We got Mustard playing in the background and stuff. We got things. It's a different kind of vibe and a different kind of environment, because we're different kind of people, and so we need to recognize that. We don't need the stuffy situation. We don't need everything to be quiet. I don't need elevator music going on in here. I need you to feel comfortable because we got work to do. And ultimately, it comes down to the work that you're willing to do. So, what we do is we have a very trauma informed approach. When I say trauma informed, it doesn't mean that we know what your trauma is. That takes some time. We are informed about it. We're willing to listen. We find out more and we make adjustments because it's our job to make the adjustments. We're the professional in this situation. So we need to find out where those things exist. It's an iterative process, which basically just means you can get in on it anywhere. You can be pissed at me today and come back in tomorrow and get services because nobody expects you to be perfect in order to be able to get services. We need to meet you where you're at. What we also do is we really try and vet a lot of resources. We don't get some resources, send you to them, and then if it don't work out, it don't work out. We've got different levels of employers. We've got those who say they will hire us, and if you're not really engaged, then you're welcome to that list. It's worth a shot. We got those that we know that will hire us, but there may be some exceptions in that. So the more you're working with us, we can really. And then we've got those that we've really vetted that not only will hire us, they want us. And then they work with us a lot closer. And so the more that you're working with us, the more we feel comfortable with saying, yes, this is somebody who works here. Yes, they're in recovery. So they're also going to need some recovery things. Yes, they need housing. So we're going to need some help with those things. But I think the main thing is that I'll use one person as an example, and I won't throw his name out there, but if he's listening, he knows exactly who he is. He came in. He'd been in the basement of OS housing for 6 days. Nobody else was in the house. He didn't know how to use his cell phone. He didn't really know how to do anything. He got a hold of Humanity for Prisoners, and they said, Adam just got a job down there at a Brighter Way. You need to go down there and see him. So when he comes in, music's playing, everything's cool. And we introduce ourselves. I say, welcome home. Remember, 6 days. That's the first time somebody welcomed him home in 6 days. The second thing that I said to him is, you hungry? And he was hungry. So we went down to the local Coney Island and had breakfast. And I ain't been able to shake him since. Because it was that basic human level. And so then we worked on things. And he was one of the first people who'd been formerly incarcerated to get a job with the city of Ann Arbor, things like that. So he trailblazed and he worked with us on these things. He's been a part of our fundraisers and things like that. People need community. And we had it while we were incarcerated. No matter how twisted it may seem, we all had this community. And then so often people come out and then they're expected not to associate with each other, but feeling like they're wearing, the scarlet letter all the time. So they don't feel a part of something. One of the biggest things we do as a Brighter Way is we create community and we give people an opportunity to connect with something, to be a part of something, and to give back to that community.
Yes, I love it. And for people listening that might not understand what he means by trauma informed care, basically to be trauma informed, that just basically means that you understand that people have trauma, right? And when a person is trauma informed, we don't ask what's wrong with this person. We ask what happened to this person. Because we realize being trauma informed, if we can figure out what happened to this person, then we can offer the resources and the tools that they need for them to succeed. It's actually the best approach because we're actually figuring out what tools a person is missing, and we treat those tools like resources, and we just add them to their toolbox. So that's a wonderful thing that your agency is doing. You actually answered more than a couple questions that I had. Like because I was going to ask share an example of someone Brighter Way has helped, and I think you did that. And you also talked about some of the connecting of the resources, which is a wonderful thing. Um, how can agencies, because we need this in Jackson. I've been pushing for this in Jackson. I'm really trying to inspire agencies or someone that has the time that would like to start a nonprofit to really take on this mission because I think that it is very important. What advice would you give to someone listening that is thinking about taking upon this mission?
I mean, every community is unique. Um, so it takes a different approach. I've often said what we do at A Brighter Way, 80% of what we've done in Washtenaw County is transferable to anywhere we'll go. But it's that 20% that's a special sauce that's going to make it Jackson a brighter way. That's going to make it Lansing a brighter way. That's going to make it Detroit a brighter way. They cannot be the same. I think a lot of agencies and a lot of people who are trying to start an agency sometimes will take somebody else's model and then try and do it exactly the way that they did it. If it was that easy, we wouldn't have the needs that we have in the community. One of the
Hmm.
reasons why I'm bringing A Brighter Way to the Jackson community is not to try and take over. That's not what A Brighter Way does anyway. We connect people with services. We're not trying to take anything over. The more services we have in place and the better people are doing services, the less we have to do and the more connections we make. But one of the reasons why I'm doing it is because of this sense of community. I mean, Jackson's where I got a chance to cut my teeth.
Hmm.
Jackson's where I got a chance to really meet, some people and do some work. I mean, we went door to door. I looked crazy going door to door in some of the areas we did with my tactical pants because they took all my pockets while I was in prison. With a clipboard in my hand. Weren't a whole lot of people necessarily opening the door, but nonetheless,
Hmm.
I showed up, and I felt eventually that I was actually welcomed into that community. And I don't leave a community and all of a sudden be like I moved on. I'm forever a
Hmm.
part of that community. So bringing that
Yes.
back to Jackson, that was a need when I was there. It's a need now, and that's why I'm there. But I would just say surround yourself with the right people, and the right people ain't always the ones that got money.
Mm.
And that's a hard pill to swallow because it does take money to make these things happen. But sometimes the people who got money have it because they haven't been thinking about the people. And those people who really ain't got money ain't got it because they've always been taking care of the people. You
Man,
know?
that's deep.
Yeah.
That's definitely deep.
So that's it.
So you do have plans for the for Brighter Way Jackson. I like that. Like I said, we
No doubt.
definitely we definitely need you and the resources that you guys bring. Um, I I get a lot of I get a lot of young men that reach out to me for different resources. Most of the time they're looking for jobs. They're looking for jobs. They're looking for resources with housing and things like that. And it seems like we lost a lot of momentum with our criminal justice advocacy work in Jackson. So we definitely looking for some people to help reboot that work because it's important work that needs to be done, man. As you know, um, working in the Jackson community, we have a lot of resources around, but there're just not a lot of resources for returning citizens. Um,
Yeah.
they're just not, you know, and those are the things that we need. We need more advocacy work and policies that are going on the local level, um, and we definitely need more mentors around people that like you, like me, that have been through the system, that have come home and been successful, that are working, trailblazing. I worked for the city too when I first came home. Like one of my first jobs was working for the city, in the Parks and Recs department. So just to be able to show people that it is possible, that that there is a different way for you out here, and to give people that skill set, the knowledge that they may not have personally had. You know, that's probably
And
the best part.
to foster those relationships like you have in the community. And the more people that you have fostering those relationships, then some of the stigmas that are on the other side of it start to get eliminated too. I think that's the key. I think one of the things that has been an issue for so long in Jackson is that a lot of people leave Jackson when I mean, I did. I left because there was
Hmm.
another job. I got swooped up by somebody else, that I
Hmm.
couldn't, turn down the opportunity. But I think when we come back, it leaves people like you carrying the weight of a lot of things. It creates situations where OSO, is doing those kind of things where they have to represent an entire agency, on their own
Hmm.
back sometimes. And I think
Hmm.
what we have to do is we have to think about this, and I know that you do, is this grassroots component of it. Because if we're really, building people up and tending to the soil that they're planted in, we will grow more advocates. We will grow more people that will help to break this stigma down. And that's what the mentorship and the navigation piece is. It's about creating those relationships with other people who may have never thought about us and wouldn't have looked at us and said, oh yeah, that's somebody who's done 30 years in prison.
Hmm.
They need to look at this a little bit different, because we're not all walking around with a third arm sticking out of our forehead, you know.
Exactly, exactly. Before we go, I just got a couple more questions, and they're also going to be related to your mission. One is, what keeps you motivated to keep doing this work every day?
There's a couple things on the negative side of the ledger and the positive side of the ledger. On the negative side of the ledger, it's because there's always work to do,
Hmm.
and it always seems like there's a strong opposition to it in a lot of places. I mean, one of the things that I talk to in these spaces that I think is hugely important for people to realize is that no matter what amount of time I've done, no matter what things that I've had to overcome, I'm also a white man in America, which has a different
Hmm.
connotation. So my release
Hmm.
is different. My entrance into prison is different. And the way that I am received in certain rooms is different.
Hmm.
And I acknowledge that. And I think it's important for people to understand that. It is sad that this exists, but it
Hmm.
does. And it needs to be spoken to, and other people need to be uncomfortable. It makes me think about the Kendrick Lamar halftime show and all these
Hmm.
people talking about, I didn't understand it and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well, guess what? A lot of people have felt like their entire life is this show was not for them.
Hmm.
Deal with the one time that it was not necessarily geared towards you, and maybe dissect why it didn't resonate, with
Hmm.
you. My wife and I'm sitting there and I'm calling stuff out as we go. Samuel Jackson, oh my God, is it red, white, and blue? Everybody,
Yeah.
all these things that are going on, I'm calling them out as they go. But I
Yeah.
was I was geeked, but a lot of people aren't. The positive part, that kind of pushes me towards this is I know it works.
Hmm.
I know it works. Nobody cares what you know until they know that you care. And I think the most important part for people to understand is people who are formerly incarcerated are not a monolith. We don't just care about criminal legal reform.
Hmm.
We care about everything in our community. We care who's sitting on our school boards. We care what decisions they're making about the parks. We care about policing.
Hmm.
If it's and the way it is done, we care about that more than we care about what building they're working in. So there's a lot of things that we genuinely care about that isn't directly tied to the fact that we've been incarcerated previously. It may be informed by that.
Hmm.
I mean, 30 years. How is it not going to be informed? How do you do anything for 30 years and not have it be a strong part? If you were a professor at University of Michigan for 30 years, how do you think you're going to respond when somebody walks into the room wearing a Buckeye sweater?
Mhm.
You know, it's just that it is what it is. But that also fuels me because I know the work that I'm doing means something. It matters. And it resonates with some people. After 5 years, I feel so well received in this community um, that I'm grateful for it. And so I don't know what I would do if I wasn't doing this work.
Nice. What advice could you give to someone who is looking to get back into the community, like give back to the community? Maybe they are formerly incarcerated and they want to get into this work. What do you suggest that they do?
Show up. That was my philosophy. That was, that was my thing. I was showing up everywhere, and I was showing up in places that we hadn't been, showing up in previously. But also find a Justin or an Adam. We're usually pretty open, and we want the next generation of leadership to be ready and empowered, and we're not going to steer you wrong. But I say that seriously when I say find a Justin or an Adam, not somebody like a Justin or an Adam, because you got a lot of people out there who are in this for the wrong reasons, and they will utilize your strengths to prop up their weaknesses. I believe in a strength based approach to things, and if you succeed, we all succeed. Um, and I'm not here to use anybody. I'm here to give my best advice. It's been like this since I was teaching classes while I was inside and facilitating classes while I was inside. I don't ever tell you the way something is. I tell you my understanding of it. And then it's on you to figure out how you utilize that information, because I haven't got it figured out, but I've been doing pretty good, and I've been figuring some things out as I went. So I might know some stuff, you know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Now, last, where can people learn more about Brighter Way and how can they support your mission?
Of course, we've got our website at brighterway.org. We have a Facebook page too. You have to see me and my best friend, who's also my deputy director, on Q&A. Q&A is kind of really a raw version of kind of what we're doing now. There's like, except for one thing, neither one of us know what the topic is going to be until about 45 seconds before we go live and start talking about it, because the day kind of informs it. And so we really kind of chop it up on kind of the raw tip. We're also going to start doing a podcast with myself and Nikki Andrews that's going to be conversations about a brighter way, which is this idea of, these are the kind of things that we do. These are why we do them. And these are some of the people that we work with. So we'll have them on. I'll have to have you on there sometime too.
Yes, definitely.
But there's a lot of ways to kind of just go out there and find us. We're located in Washtenaw County in Ypsi, downtown Ypsi, 124 Pearl Street, suite number 304. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We're out in the community on a regular basis. We're open on Saturday from 10 to 12. And like I said, we're coming to Lansing. The pilot opens June 1st, where we'll start actually being available for people here in Lansing. And starting, I think it's April 4th, we will be down in Jackson 1 day a week working out of Home and New Vision's Resource Center on Michigan Avenue. So we're kind of showing up every.
Nice. Hey, matter of fact, before we go, let's oh no, let me hit last question and then I'll play this video before we go.
Okay.
If you could leave the audience with one final message about trauma healing or in reentry, what would that be?
It takes time. It takes time. It takes effort. Nobody does it perfectly. If it's the video that I think you're going to play, if you really pay attention to the lyrics, then you're going to understand that trauma takes many forms. There's no right way. There's no wrong way. There just has to be a way, and we believe that way is a brighter way. I couldn't have been no more cheesy with that one if I'd have thought about it beforehand.
Hey man, it's all right though, man. It's all right, man. What we got here? We got a comment. He said, yo, what happened to the twist, my guy? Oh yeah. Look, finally somebody noticed.
I
We going
noticed it
back to the
too.
clean. We get back to the. I posted the other day. I said the Dark Knight is back, man. We back to the Bruce Wayne. My guy Tony, much respect, bro. Appreciate and love, man. It's another one of the brothers. I know you've been through it. You understand what it's like to go through such a journey, man. But I got something I want to play for him. Let's play this for him, man. I definitely want to show you guys this video.
It's Gibson. This song is for the ones who came home without a welcome. Wasn't nobody friendly, they treat you like a felon. You went and did your time and you say you learned your lesson. Trying to figure life out, seem like nobody is helping. This is for the person who came home and started from the bottom. Just know you ain't alone, cause iron sharpens iron. We figured if we come together, we could solve the problem. Cause reentry is hard, it's time to talk about it. We all burn some bridges, we here to help rebuild some. We've been in your shoes, no laces, just Velcro. Praying for a maybe, but their response is hell no. You left the work alone, it's looking like you need to sell some more. I hear your struggle and your pain tenfold. What's the rehabilitation that they gave you men for? If you can't get a fair shot, tell me what I'm here for. Parole is just a game, basketball without the free throw. I know it's hard, but you gotta know you're worth it. If you're still alive, then you gotta have a purpose. We can change the world, unity is what's gonna save us. There's a brighter way, there's a brighter way. We could build a bridge, we just gotta see the vision. We gon' keep beating on these doors till they listen. When we stand together, that's when they gon' pay attention. Let me hear you say, there's a brighter way, yeah.
The hardest part is gone. You made it out them walls. Now you back home. Let's crawl before you walk. One day at a time, it don't happen overnight. Everybody shining, be the beacon to their light. Be the reason that she smile, be the reason that she proud. I'm living for my mom, I done found my purpose now. Show her life is different, show her life above the clouds. I made it out that cell and made an impact on my town. I'm leading by example, it's your time. Do the same. If you gon' teach a youth, show them how to stay away from the streets and the game, man. Choose another lane. It's a lot on your shoulders. You was built for this rain.
I know it's hard, but you gotta know you're worth it. If you're still alive, then you gotta have a purpose. We can change the world, unity is what's gonna save us. There's a brighter way, there's a brighter way. We could build a bridge, we just gotta see the vision. We gon' keep beating on these doors till they listen. When we stand together, that's when they gon' pay attention. Let me hear you say, there's a brighter way, yeah. It's Gibson, and also the Don.
Man, I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
Still
hits
me
go check
every
out
time
that
I heard it.
video. Man, it's real, man. One of the best things that I discovered was music therapy, was being able to use music to help me process and digest my personal traumas. And I thought that that was a wonderful song, man, because so many of us come home and we have all of this anxiety, we have all of these fears, and we have so much going on, and we're really trying. And when you hear the message that these brothers, that they were spitting, it's like you you can hear all of the efforts. You know what I'm saying? All of the cares. Like we worried about so many things. We're trying to stay and walk the right path. We're trying to do right for our family members that supported us and that continue to support us. And then at the same time, we want to show people that there is a different way to deal with things that we used to deal with, man. But I definitely appreciate you, man. I ain't gonna hold up too much of your time. I want to do this giveaway that we got tonight. Definitely thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate having you, man. It was amazing conversation, man.
I appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir, man. Take it easy, man. We'll definitely tap in with you again.
Ain't no doubt.
Everybody go check out Brighter Way online, man. At brighterway.com, right? Or is it
Yes,
.org?
indeed.
All right. Y'all check it out. Brighter Way.
Peace, brother.
Peace, my brother. All right, man. We got something fun, man. Listen, I want to do something fun, man. I haven't been able to do anything fun yet, so I want to try something. You know, I want to encourage people to comment and to support. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to do something fun. This show, Community Soldier, is sponsored by All for Less Retail. Y'all know what we do at All for Less. We give people the deals, man. And I'm going to give you the deal. One special person right now is about to win a free Fill-A-Bag. That's a $10 retail value. You can come to our store. We're going to make you an appointment. You can come rummage as much as you want through the bins, and you can fill the entire bag for free. You hear me? You're going to win this right now. So let's get right into it, guys. Let's see. Everybody who commented, your name is going to be in here. So we're going to start this giveaway right now. We got 6 commenters. Hopefully my name don't pop up. Let's get it. Let's see who's going to win the very first Community Soldier raffle. We're giving away a free $10 fill-up bag to one lucky commenter. Hope it ain't me. Oso, congratulations, my guy, Oso the Don. He is our first lucky winner. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. All right, guys, man, it's been another edition of the Community Soldier podcast, man. If you would love to be a guest on the show, all you gotta do is send me a message, man. Let's get it, man. Let's get these conversations going, man. I got some good conversations coming up. I got a couple more trauma experts that are going to come on, and they're going to talk about trauma. We're going to talk about a lot of things that are going on in the community right now. So make sure y'all stay tuned, man. Share the video, support, man. Drop us a comment. And if you're just not watching it, rewind it back, man. Rewind it back, because it was a good episode today, man. Drop us a comment, share the video, spread the word, man. And make sure y'all tap in, man. We got our monthly men's meeting coming up for the Jackson Strength Network. My fellas, make sure y'all tap into the group, man. Jackson Strength Network, man. We got some real things going on, fellas, and we need y'all in the group, man. So hopefully we'll see y'all, man. It's been real, and I'll check y'all out next time, man. Love y'all. Mike says, got to do one grinding your way to the top. Yes, sir. My guy, man. Appreciate you for joining, man. All love.
Grandpa told me you lucky to have one friend. Situations in life coming, you gotta trust them. Found out many times in life you can't trust men. So I rolled solo, that process was an adjustment. Friends let you down, not around when you're needing them. Only here to take like a child, got you feeding them. Better off leaving them like salt, that's the seasoning. Killing black people, that sugar really depleting them. Knowledge over ignorance, rising above predicaments. Fighting for equality, speaking for all the innocents. These drugs they been giving us, turning our people vigilant. Innocent.